So I'd like to start just by saying welcome everybody to one more Glaze webinar. The Glaze webinar series is a series of webinars that we make where we go out and we reach out to industry and academic experts to bring what are the latest innovations and hot topics in the industry so we can create awareness and we can provide this information to our audience. These webinars are recorded, so everybody that's watching here now can access the webinar later. In about a week, will be up at the website where we have all the collections of webinars that we've done up to today. And we always have a good audience that comes afterwards. So they do not join live, but they come afterwards and they watch these webinars. First thing I would like to say thank you is for our speakers today. So we have Matt Lingard, who is the Vice President of Agriculture and Science at Bright Farms, calling from Chicago today. We're gonna hear his own introduction in a few minutes here. And Serdar Mizaraki, who is the CEO at Element Farms, located in New Jersey. Today, we're gonna be talking about the path to CEA Sustainability. So we're gonna be bouncing some ideas back and forth with these two folks that operate a large chain of greenhouses, Bright Farm and Serdar with a more small size new greenhouses. So it'll be very nice to get the ideas out of them. I would like then to say thank you to all our Glaze members who make it possible for us. Thanks to them, we can sponsor those activities and bring this free activity to the entire CEA industry. And for this talk today, we have one sponsor for the webinar, which is Solon Technologies, which is also a Glaze member. So we have a 1-minute video from Solon, and then we're gonna jump straight into our webinar with Matt and Serdar. All right. And we are ready to go. So thanks everyone for joining. I think last but not least, the audience, right? We are doing this for them. So we're ready to start. Matt, maybe we can start with you. The way we're gonna go here today, just for the audience to know as well, we're gonna have a few minutes from Matt. He's gonna talk an introduction about himself, Bright Farms, talk about some sustainability aspects that they do over there. Then we're gonna switch gears to Serdar. Another few minutes with Serdar, and then it's really an open conversation. That's the cool thing about these roundtables. It's gonna be a conversation. Please send your questions, and if you do that, use the question box, not the chat box. It's much easier for us to track the questions that come, and we're gonna be discussing any topics that you throw here for us, and we're gonna be here together until 3 p.m. With that said, Matt, I think you can go ahead. I will stop sharing my screen, and I will let you share your screen.
Okay, thanks, Erico. It's such a pleasure to get this invitation. Before I have a couple slides that I had made for another talk, so it's pretty easy to put some together. But before I do that, I'll maybe do my personal intro real quick. So, like I said, this is the first time I've been invited to do one of these with Glaze, and actually feels like kind of a milestone in the work that we're doing to have this chance. So really, thanks for that invitation. I've been with Bright Farms, so as Erica said, I'm our Vice President of Agriculture and Science, and I've been doing that with Bright Farms for about 14 months now. So it still feels like a new job, but we've also probably hired like 150 people since I was hired, and so I don't get to call myself the new guy at Bright Farms anymore. I was brought in to lead our agriculture operations team. So all the growers at Bright Farms report up into me. We're building a new agriculture support team. And so a team of specialists that help with things like climate, with pest management, with the, kind of we operate 6 sites in 6 states. And so we are finding that we have a need to support our growers through travel and through the participation of these experts across the various sites. And then we're building a research and development team and a team that's focused on improving the ways we grow and then bringing new crops and to the market for us. And so actually, I was wrong. The one on my right shoulder is actually spinach here. And I'm like Serdar, we focus a lot on spinach. And anybody who's tried to grow it indoors know it's put some gray hairs in your beard if you let it. And so, building a team to really continue to focus on how we get better at growing difficult crops like spinach. And then also our food safety teams report to me. And so that was a change we made about a year ago after an outbreak we had that was associated with our farm, a salmonella outbreak. And so one of the changes we made was to build, really expand our food safety team and move it from our ops organization into our science organization to put a little bit of that kind of more microbial science-based focus on it. And so why this is such a, and then here's where I'll share the slides. Well, I guess before I do that, the reason why I have this job is I've got a background in agriculture and plant science. I have a PhD in plant cell biology from Arizona State University. I postdoced in genetics with Barney Bartel at Rice. And then I worked in the seed industry for 13 years. So 10 years in St. Louis with Monsanto as a cell biologist and a geneticist and breeder. And then 3.5 years in Tucson, Arizona, leading the startup of a 7-acre greenhouse facility specifically focused on accelerating the way that we breed field corn at Bayer. And from there, I left that role about 14 months ago and came to Bright Farms. And so I've been doing plants my whole career. I think like growing lettuce in greenhouses is super new for me. And there's a lot of people who are smarter about that than I am on the call here. And so looking forward to your insights and your questions. But, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is a similar reason that everybody that's in this space does it, is we think we can do things in a way that looks a lot different than the way it's historically been done. We think there's major sustainability gains to be made by growing indoors. We think there's ways to keep our lettuce fresher and cleaner than growing outside. And I'll share a couple slides that kind of illustrate that. I'll try to keep this pretty quick and pretty informal. So I think no secret to everyone here, we think there's major challenges that modern agriculture faces. And I say that coming from a field ag background as well as working in the CEA space and in greenhouse space. And so, along with the sort of problems we all know we've been facing about deforestation to create land for agriculture, major water usage challenges. I sit out in the western, I live in Arizona and right near Lake Powell, Lake Mead, and we're seeing record shortages of water out there, and yet most of our lettuce is grown out here. Fertilizers escape, and I think there's been major progress in controlling that in the field spaces, but the reality is when you're outside, your fertilizer is going to go somewhere. Use of pesticides, and viewing pesticides both as a thing that, at times we want to make sure we don't take into our bodies, but also it's a limited resource as well. And the more we use pesticides, the less useful they become. And so can we control their usage? And then food safety. Anyone who eats lettuce at Thanksgiving knows that just about every year rolls around, we have something happening out of Salinas or Yuma with E. coli or with salmonella. This last year with listeria. Specifically, there's a couple areas we really focus on. And so pathogen risk in the outdoor farms, the exposure to the outdoor environment can increase exposure to certain types of pathogens. Also centralized packaging, where multiple farms are supplying the leaves to centralized processing centers. This it decreases the traceability, makes it difficult to find where outbreaks in either plant or human pathogens are coming from. And then really relevant to this webinar, the supply chains are long and complex. And when we see that we're shipping any type of produce, long miles, that adds to the carbon footprint of anything that we're growing. And so figuring out ways to really park greenhouses next to centers of consumption so that we're reducing those land miles, it not only reduces the carbon footprint, but it also creates a much fresher product in our experience. So of course, the thesis is, and it's be familiar to everyone, that by being in CEA, we're addressing these issues. And so we think indoor is more efficient at managing most pathogen risks. Our single biggest risk is still human transmission. And so it's humans are still in our facility, so we're certainly not risk-free. We've completely decentralized the way that we package. And so we never commingle what we're growing in one farm to another. And then we keep our supply line short and simple. I'll show some examples of what that looks like. Just a couple of just calibrating slides here. Everyone has their version of this, but also this CEA industry is growing rapidly, and that's why it's an exciting place to be. And it's growing because we're using less land, less water, less fuel. I think there's the opportunity to become much more sustainable. And I think there's some challenges there, and it's stuff that I'm looking forward to the conversation today to really dig into that and explore that. But lots of investments, lots of growth in this space, and that's why it's a really exciting place to be right now. So a little bit about Bright Farms. The little flags that you see right there, somehow Chicago's sitting off in the Atlantic Ocean, but really where it really should be in Illinois. But we've got the flags are our current greenhouses. We've got, as I said, 6 in 6 states. That's a total of 16 acres, and we grow 365 days a year, like a lot of lettuce operations. We were also recently acquired by Cox Enterprises, and so Cox owns large companies at Cox Communications, like cable, satellite type of stuff. Also, Auto Trader and Kelley Blue Book are owned by Cox, and then they have a sustainability branch. And Bright Farms was their first acquisition in their sustainability arm. And more recently, large share of Muchi farms up in Canada as well. And so, we've broken ground in the last month or so on our newest facility that'll be here next to our Chicago facility, so in Yorkville, Illinois. That'll be roughly 8 acres of lettuce growing in our mobile gutter system. Most of the current locations we're growing in deep water culture system. And one of the things that's fun about working at Bright Farms is we're growing system agnostic. We're really trying to find the best technology for the right technology for the right application. And in some cases that's deep water culture, we think, and in other cases we think that's mobile gutters. And then just real quick about how we grow, and this is probably not lost on everyone in this audience, but I view the world in CEA in roughly 2 big buckets. There's a powered by sun and powered by LEDs. And even when we're powered by the sun, we're powered by artificial light. But even those of us who are powered by the sun, especially in baby leaf, we can provide, the leaves will take as much light as we'll give them. And so we certainly use artificial light year round for various different reasons in our operations. So one of the last things I'll just touch on is just quickly, what does it look like at Bright Farms? And, for anybody who knows how plants grow, this will look pretty familiar, but, we get seeds. We work with all the major seed vendors to get the best genetics we can possibly find. And we're really proud of a lot of what we're able to grow at Bright Farms. We grow, in the example here is in deep water cultures. You can see our floating rafts that are going through on step 2 here. Get peat media and then the seeds planted on them. We'll put those out on our ponds, and those will grow for up to 21 days out in the greenhouse. You can see an example of a romaine leaf growing there. And then without leaving the facility, going to go get harvested and then packaged into clamshells. Those are assembled in boxes, and then those are put onto trucks. And the real difference and the really exciting thing here is we grow it in the greenhouse, we package it in the same facility, then within less than 24 hours, we're at the distribution centers for our grocer partners. And that's as distinct from field operations. And this is just to make that point one more time, where a lot of field operations feed a commingled packaging facility, and it can take days to get from the field to the distribution center and into a consumer's hands. We're trying to do that in less than a day. And I think that's a pretty common model for just about everyone that's thinking about this space right now. And that's really enough of an intro. I think the more interesting part of this will be the conversation. And so I'll hand it over to Serger to share his background.
Thanks, Matt. Sardar, you good to go?
I'm good to go. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Matt. Well, I don't have any slides put together, so I'll just do a brief overview of Element Farms and myself. After seeing Matt's presentation, I don't feel bad about not having slides put together, because I think that he did a fantastic job at explaining indoor production and greenhouses. And what we do at Element Farms on the production side is very similar to Matt's company, Bright Farms. We just do it at a much smaller scale. So we have a single facility in Lafayette, New Jersey, that's 70,000 square feet, where we grow all kinds of leafy greens and some herbs. And we service retailers in the vicinity, not more than 150-mile in distribution radius. One of the things that we do slightly differently at Element Farms is we're very focused on being hyper-local and our local impact to our community and our customers, and to kind of achieve the most benefit or utility for our surroundings. We chose to be very vertically integrated, from seed to delivery of product to individual store level. So what we do at Element Farms is we grow a wide portfolio of salad greens and herbs, basically whatever our customers ask us to grow, which they would prefer to receive directly into their stores. We pack them on site, and we deliver all of our products with our own vans, our own drivers, into each of the retail locations that our products are sold in. So that would mean that from our small 1.5 acre facility, we're servicing about 200 stores directly with our own vehicles, with our own drivers. We go there multiple times a week, so that we can get our produce in the shortest distance and also the smallest carbon footprint possible, into each individual store. That also helps us keep our product as fresh as possible in the stores, which at the end reflects to the consumer as a benefit of shelf life. One thing we always keep in mind is that our products are competing with field-grown products at supermarkets for the majority part, and those products are coming from California, Arizona, and a few other places, but they travel thousands of miles to get to the stores that we sell our products in. And us being able to get our produce into stores within about 24 hours after harvest provides multiple days of additional shelf life to the consumer who's making a choice between buying our locally grown products versus something that travels from the West Coast or other countries to get to the store they shop on a weekly basis. So that's where we see our place as a small greenhouse facility in New Jersey, is that we have a high population of consumers around us, and the best service we can do to them is to grow high quality product and get it to them as fast as possible in the shortest time possible, and have all the right products that they're looking for when they go into a supermarket to shop for their homes. So we've built our business model around that. We've also built our production model around that to be able to grow various crops in the same facility while being very flexible with the crop mix that we have, how much of what we can grow, and some of the things that our customers are asking us to produce are fairly difficult to grow, especially at small volumes or without facilities that aren't dedicated to growing one particular crop. And Matt also touched on this a little bit. Spinach is a good example of those. It is very tricky to grow it, and due to our business model and our purpose of being here, our place in the market, we're not only a grower of spinach, we're also a grower of lettuces and microgreens and herbs. So part of the challenge we're dealing with on the technology side of things, or even the day-to-day production side of things, is to be able to be good enough at growing everything that our customers ask us to, while staying kind of loyal and very focused on this mission of being local and getting produce as fresh as possible and as in the shortest distance possible to consumers. I think I will leave it at that and hand it to you, Eriko, for questions. Please let me know if I've missed anything.
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much, Sardar. Thank you so much, Matt. I think it's very interesting to hear similar things from both of you, with a very large facility and a small local facility, both high tech, both with the leafy greens, right? The vegetable area, the vegetable industry. So I think I'd like to kick off this discussion by looking into the big picture. I made a bunch of notes as we go, and then as people send questions, we can go through them as well. But starting on the decision-making process, right? Both of you, you're not necessarily the growers at your facility, but are coordinating more business activities, the big picture at those facilities. And I don't know if the answer is going to be equal, since one is very large and the other one is smaller. But when you think about implementing sustainable technologies, we're talking about sustainability practices here, they are not necessarily the cheapest ones. And I'll give an example with, it could be lighting, it could be a new boiler, it could be any piece of equipment that will bring energy efficiency in the long run, but there is a return on investment. It takes some time to get this money back, but there is a big capital cost up front. So thinking about that, what are the drivers that you pull? What are the buttons that you push to make this decision and say, I will invest more money now, I'll take the risk now and wait for the payback? It is purely an economic decision? Is purely numbers, or are you taking in consideration other aspects like the social impacts of that? And how does that work? Do you see the consumer providing a direct response to that? Do they care if you use LED lighting or HPS lighting? Do they care if you spend more or less money to reduce the energy consumption? So on the decision making, right? I'm not looking for any specifics, but how does that work with you when you're going through this process? I can start with, we can start, Matt.
Sure. Yeah, it's such a great question, and I think, I don't know. I'm not aware of especially like a CEA producer, especially in the leafy green space, who's doing this, who's not doing this because everyone is trying to do this in large part, or at least one of their major slides that they put in all their investor decks and everything they talk about is sustainability. And so I think it's a thing we all start. We all know we want to do this. I think it's really hard to do it well because, like as you said, almost all the sustainability technologies are expensive, and they often cost more than the, if you will, the non-sustainable counterparts. And so what we've really focused on are things that get us multiple wins. And so it's almost never purely a sustainability investment that we're making. It's an investment in plant quality. And so when we look at LEDs, for example, we're not just looking at the energy savings we'll get, which are substantial. But the reality is, like, whenever we pencil out the math, you're talking about a 5 to 10 year payback horizon just on the energy savings, and that's an investment that, like, the financial guys don't get super excited about. They love to see like 18 to 24 months, like max. And so then we start talking about, well, we get way less edge burn on our crop when we're using LEDs, and we actually think that we can boost yields because we're able to run different temperatures that we wouldn't, when we're using so you can see I've got HPS lights above my head, and we really struggle at certain times of the year with those HPS lights and what those do to quality. And so I think we look for, what are the synergies beyond just the energy savings that help take the investment from the right thing to do and interesting to like the right thing to do for our consumers, because it creates a product that they're delighted by, for our investors because it's helping us grow in a way that is profitable, and then for the planet and the environment. And so it's got to be, for me, checking multiple boxes to make sense at this point in our growth.
Yeah, I like this multiple wins. It's a very interesting aspect. Yeah. Sardar, you want to comment on this question?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, this is a very difficult question to answer insightfully because when we think about what consumers look to us for and what they really care about, the main challenge we have in answering the question is, as a producer of crops, we don't talk to consumers every day, right? We talk to produce managers every day, and their job is to maximize revenue in their, in their footprint, and they're running a business. And I think sustainability, when we think about the supply chain for vegetables or leafy greens specifically, a lot of it, or majority of it, goes through either supermarkets or restaurants or some sort of catering facility, and these are all businesses that are trying to maintain their margins, especially in like today's economy and environment. Everyone's very protective of their margins, and consumers, when they go to shop to supermarkets, they're very protective of their house budget. So we see that, the primary concern everyone has throughout the supply chain, including the consumers, is how do we get the most value while kind of, delivering what we need to deliver at the right quality. And the value, when we try to break down value, I think a big chunk of it is, unit economics, and then maybe a small chunk of it is sustainability and feeling good about how stuff that we consume is made. When I put my consumer hat on, when I go to shop at the supermarket, I look for good quality products, I look for a good price point, and then I think through, okay, like, how was this made? Where is this coming from? What's the benefit of it versus the other thing on the on the shelf. It's almost always the third thing to consider for majority of the consumers, certainly not all of them. But when we think about what our customers, the retailers or the supermarkets, value, I think they place a lot of value in the fact that we're local. But that is not only because of the carbon footprint implications of what we do. I think they understand that component and appreciate it. But some of the other benefits that, you know, might be related to sustainability, but are more valuable attributes of a stable business. Things like, you know, there's a lower food safety risk to working with an indoor farm versus a field farm, and I think, you know, everyone in our supply chain knows and appreciates that. That's very valuable. The impact of pesticides, not just on the environment, but, you know, our bodies, and, you know, the quality of produce or food we want to bring into our homes. I think, you know, I think health benefits is a lot of the time priority over sustainability on those aspects. And then freshness is a lot of times priority over the carbon footprint or distance related benefits of being local. So there's a lot of things we claim about our product on the package or on our website, wherever we educate consumers. And I think a lot of our customers and then the consumers value the health related and cost related benefits of those claims more than the sustainability related benefits of those claims. I think that is the situation today, but that doesn't mean we should stop talking about sustainability. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be making production related decisions around sustainability. I think it just means that we still need time in this market for consumers to start communicating that they're going to place more value on sustainability of products, and then there is more demand from our customers to us on really focusing on sustainability and making that kind of primary to how we design our production and how we design our business model, so that we're kind of delivering on the sustainability promise to consumers, for us to make more decisions around sustainability. I think, you know, an example of the most important thing we've done on this front probably was switching to kind of less plastic packaging. We've recently switched in the past year from rigid plastic containers for our consumer packages to flexible plastic containers, where it saves about 40% in the amount of plastic per unit that we ship. And that's a decision that made us feel great as business operators in terms of our impact to the environment. And I think we're seeing that a lot of consumers are appreciating it, because we're seeing higher demand for our products on a kind of like per store level. But to be very frank, there's a lot of other decisions we can make on the production side that could make us more sustainable, in the sense that we could potentially produce the same amount with less energy, and we can deliver the same amount of product with less miles or you know less gallons of fuel. But right now we're focusing more of our investments on how do we get our yields up, and how do we deliver more product to customers quicker, rather than focusing them on things like carbon footprint and things like energy consumption.
Sure. Yeah, that's no easy answer. Thank you so much, both of you. I think what I got from this answer is that a lot of factors. I like what Matt said at the beginning with the multiple wins, including on the decision-making process. Very interesting, not only the energy itself, right? Energy is great. And then from Serdar, all this relation with the final customer. I never thought about this as well. So you're selling for the manager, right? You're not selling for the final customer. There is this person in between. And just as my point of view as a consumer, I think the local is the big one for me, just like you said. It might be for everyone else because you don't have a big stamp saying less energy, less energy. You have the local, which is boom, right there.
Yeah, and Erica, we do have some consumer data, and that's exactly what we see is that the local is the big thing. I think the consumers want sustainable packaging and sustainable grow practices, but they're not willing to pay for it. And so, so they, they'll maybe choose it, but they're not going to pay extra for it because of that. And so there's this like tension that we're dealing with right now. And I think we're all challenged in this industry with, pretty high capital investments in the way that we grow. So we've all invested a lot of money in our greenhouses. And so our margins aren't super high at this point. And, I really want to echo what Serdar said, that from my point of view, the more we can do to become operationally efficient, so the more we can do to boost yields and the more we can do to reduce waste within our processes, that's one of the biggest sustainability plays we actually have right now, because we're being more efficient with the resources that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we could talk about this the whole day. We have a lot of good questions coming over. So I'll switch for some of the other. I had a list of 10 questions. I don't know if I'm going to go through mine. Let me go. There's a very nice one to what Serdar just mentioned. I think you mentioned to this as well, Matt. So the first one is questions for both presenters. One, have you quantified the carbon footprint of your products? For example, pounds of CO2 per pound of spinach or lettuce, anything that you're growing there. And does your company consider this an important metric to track? So the first one is this, and then there's a follow-up question, which is, do you know approximately what percentage of your total operating expenses is attributed to the energy costs? So are you quantifying track CO2? And can you break down the operational costs? It's lighting, it's fuel, it's labor, anything like that?
Go first. So, we're giving a lot of thought right now to tightening up the sustainability numbers, actually. And so Cox cares deeply about this as a company. We're working really closely with them. I think a lot of us got into this industry with, claims about sustainability, 90% less water, X% less energy. I don't think we've really returned to that as a community yet to ask like, okay, this is what we said we were going to do. This is what we're doing. And so I look at, really 23 as a year where we start to return to those measurements. And so like to answer directly, no, we're not measuring that right now, but I think it's an important measure, whether, CO2 is one. I think there's other ways to look at this as well. In the meantime, we're doing things, and I talked about some of the like investments to check multiple buckets. And so like the things we get really excited about right now are boilers where we capture our carbon from them. So we're trying to close the loop on sustainability in that way. And so we're certainly paying attention to it, but not at the level where we're able to like count the number, the parts per million of CO2 we're producing versus consuming, if you will. And then energy as a percent of our operation. So the biggest expense we have is labor. So I won't give direct percentages, but I'll say like by a margin, people labor is our single biggest expense today. And largely that's in packaging operations. And then energy consumption for lighting is second after that. And so it's a really big chunk of what we spend is to power the lighting. And then, I think as we move further south in the US, cooling will become a part of that as well. And so again, we're not, we certainly do track our kilowatt hours and what basically how many units per kilowatt hour we're getting out at this point. And I think we feel like we have a lot of opportunity in that space right now.
Great. And just to tie this, Serdar, I'll turn to you if you want to comment on that as well. But a good follow-up question here would be data sharing. Data sharing is something that everybody's excited. They want to see the data, but nobody want to share the data. But that's something that can create baselines, benchmarks, databases, and that could right, greatly benefit everybody everywhere if you have an anonymous benchmark where we can see what's happening and identify opportunities. But anyway, Sardar, do you want to comment on this question as well?
Sure. So to answer the question of, do we track the carbon footprint or carbon output of our operations? Not exactly. Just like Matt said, we track kilowatt hours and amount of natural gas and the amount of diesel and gasoline we spend to get the product to the final place. We don't calculate carbon footprint in real time, or we don't kind of like consolidate that type of data on a regular basis. We've done a couple of kind of studies internally to compare our carbon footprint of like our kind of like average production values to the carbon footprint of something that was field grown in California, or something that was shipped from further away. And our belief is that we're reducing every kind of unit of lettuce we replace that is field grown conventionally in California, we're reducing 30% of the carbon emissions that it takes to get that conventionally grown produce to the same place we sell it to. Obviously, those numbers are going to change over time. As we get better at doing our production, as we get higher yields per square foot, our carbon footprint is going to change materially. And we know that there are very big opportunities in indoor farming to get better at growing things with high yields consistently, and really increase the amount of output we have without changing our energy consumption much. And those are the opportunities we're looking at. What we believe with in terms of how we're approaching sustainability is the more we work on our technology and becoming better growers and getting higher yields, we're improving our metrics on carbon footprint linearly to those yields. And so I think our position is we're going to get better and better at sustainability. It's just something that's going to naturally happen as we get better at improving margins for our business. And I think that's that's a kind of very maybe like positive or hopeful way of looking at it, but with kind of the type of production we do and the margins we're dealing with, I think that is the best approach we can have at this point, as opposed to invest into sustainability directly, invest into our productivity, which is going to get us to better sustainability.
And maybe to just ladder onto that a little bit, like these operations are extremely hard. And so like it's a fight for survival for the first couple of years that you're running one of these operations. And it's extremely difficult to like have, how do I be resource conscious in mind while you're just like trying to like make sure you can get the pounds out every single day. What we're finding is as we're, so our goal has been scale first and then really bring stability as we do that. And so we've been really focused on exactly what Sir's talking about, this operational stability. What we're finding now is we're starting to have the bandwidth as we're bringing, we're growing our company a little bit, we're bringing in more experts to think about, okay, we turned all the lights on like all day just because we knew we'd get more pounds. Now, okay, let's think about LEDs. Let's think about whether we can dim them or not dim them. Let's start talking about virtual DLI and think about the interaction between CO2 and lighting. And so like there's these, it's a higher order of thinking to grow sustainably, I think, than it is to, and that's really quite difficult to start there. And I've seen some people do it really well, but the majority can't. Like most of us just have to kind of muddle through this until we can get to a point where things are stable enough to start really thinking some of these higher order sustainable approaches to growing in particular.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons we decide to do this roundtable about sustainability is really to bring awareness to the whole industry. So I do agree with both of you. I think that increasing yields, you would then reduce the footprint associated per kilogram or whatever you're selling, if it's flowers, if it's lettuce, but you do consume a lot of energy. So one of the reasons is, let's create awareness now. Let's talk about this now as an industry together, so we can identify points of improvement and act on these before someone else from outside comes and do that, right? We have long conversations, and I'm not grabbing just to me. It's a Glaze group conversation that we have with everybody. I'm being just transmitting those ideas, but it's excellent. So I really appreciate hearing from both of you, and it's great to have those open conversations. And now I think to follow up, I have one question here. There's a perfect follow-up while we're talking about Serdar mentioned about the costs of produce coming from California, crossing the country. And we saw your everything here on the East Coast. So the question was, with the pandemic and now supply chain challenges, has your facilities been able to capitalize or fill the gap, that's a great term to use, on the new market opportunities in the wake of long distance outdoor growers not being able to provide delivery, not be able to get there, especially with the pandemic? And have you built this into your marketing strategies? Can you turn this into marketing? Going back to the beginning, can you capitalize for the customer and push this to the customer and create awareness on the customer level?
That one was right at Serdar, so I'm waiting for him to go.
I can definitely start if you'd like. Yeah. No, that's I think I have a good answer to this one. So we started building our commercial facility, or like the facility that we're operating right now in Lafayette, New Jersey, in November of 2019, just a few months before the pandemic hit and the first lockdown happened. So that was the time when we were just trying to get settled into the facility and get utilities connected to start getting some product out. And then March, the lockdown happened. And the first thing, or maybe the second thing we saw happen was our customers, the few customers we had at the time, were calling us saying, hey, we can't get deliveries from our warehouse because either A, they're short on labor at the distribution center, or B, product is not coming from the West Coast consistently. And that was a big problem that supermarkets were dealing with during the first lockdown of the pandemic, right? Like supply chains weren't working, people were staying at home, and shelves weren't stocked, and I think a lot of people experienced that wherever they live. So it was on us as the new local farm with excess capacity to kind of step up and fill those shelves, and we did that by running a completely vertically integrated operation, and we started delivering to each individual store that was lacking product, that couldn't even get product from its own corporate distribution center. And in the first 6 months of that lockdown, we quadrupled sales from where they were before March, and it kind of really helped help get our facility to full capacity. So that was something we did capitalize on, in the sense that it got us more customers faster, but it wasn't something that we capitalized on in the sense that we did not charge a premium for our product, and we didn't feel entitled to do that. We didn't have motivation to do that at the time. But it probably did help us, in terms of marketing. One, be able to pitch to our local retailers and say, hey, if this happens again, we're going to be for you because we're a local farm and we can get to you directly, whereas a big company in California can't. And number two, I think for consumers, it was good to see that our product was on the shelf always when other brands weren't necessarily there. So I think those are the two minor benefits. I think a lot of us, and including our customers and maybe majority of consumers, we don't hope and we don't want to think that a major supply chain disruption like that is going to happen, because it makes life very hard for everyone. So no, I don't think our customers are planning or necessarily preparing heavily for another pandemic style supply chain disruption. I don't think they continue to work with us because of that benefit. I think they're continuing to work with us because they like the quality of the produce they get from us, and they like the price point of our produce. So I think it's certainly a benefit. It's certainly something that we've capitalized on to a degree, but it's not something that we've really monetized in the sense that something we've been able to use to get better margins for our product.
I'll just quickly say similar thoughts. We saw a bump from COVID, and it was a bump. So we kind of saw the COVID for about a year, and then not really more. What we have seen a much bigger disruption is, or almost opportunity, if you will, is with the outbreaks that happen routinely out of Salinas and Yuma around Thanksgiving time. And so last year with Dole and Fresh Express struggling, we couldn't grow enough product to fulfill demand. At that point, it didn't necessarily turn into durable changes. And, so once Dole and Fresh Express came back on, then a lot of that went back. We use that as an opportunity to build relationships. And Surtur is exactly right. Like, what we want people to stay for is the quality, and we want them to stay for the freshness and the kind of the reliability of the supply that can be provided year round. And so that's what we work on building into our plans, not relying on kind of big breakdowns and opportunity in the supply chain.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. We talk about sustainability. There are multiple angles for sustainability. You have the energy, you have the production, you have labor, you have social impacts, and I think both of you cover some of those here today. We have about 10 more minutes until 3, and we have more questions that we can answer. So I'll pick one here. I'm just gonna run through of the other questions we got that I thought was interesting. So we got questions about nutritional value of the crops and how does that can influence with sustainability. If you think about health, that's an interesting one. We talk about multiple questions about other crops. So if you think there is a space for other crops other than leafy greens, and then the broad impacts of that. So then you have to invest equipment and so on. And then the benefits on the economic side. We got questions about internships. So that's not really about sustainability, but if your companies offer internships for students, yeah. Quick, Matt, you said yes. Where people can find these? They can go to Bright Farms website and they can look there.
Yeah. So we'll generally post them. We just finished our first official intern class. We had 5 interns, a number from Cornell this year, and we'll be this fall, we'll be looking for interns for next summer. So that'll be on our website. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sardar, do you have anything? So if you have opportunities, they can look at the website.
Yeah, I don't think they'll find job posts on our website, but they can certainly write into the website to say they're interested in an internship, and we're absolutely looking for interns and also kind of junior growers. So anyone who's like interested in being in the space. I see Matt nodding. Everyone needs good junior growers. So send us your resumes or write in and tell us why you want to work with us, and we'll definitely make a conversation happen.
I'll take junior, intermediate, and senior growers. So we just need growers generally. So yeah, that's That's exactly right.
Fantastic. Okay. But let's go to this next one. And then I want to be respectful of time. I know Matt has a flight to catch, so we're going to go for close remarks in just a second here. But another one that I left for last on purpose is climate controls. So what is the role of climate controls? And I could draw a little bit more, integration, automation, data analysis. How do you see that? Is that a big role? So let me twist a little bit the question. Do you think the future, how much more can we improve on sustainability? Can we rely more on the equipment? Would you say, is there a big role for automation, integration, AI to go about that? Or do you think it's more about the growers that we just talked about? It is training the labor, the workforce, and leave to them to get those insights and try to get this extra mile onto the production. And we can be very brief here. I don't want to, because we have 7 minutes. So just insights. Do you have a minute or two about that? What do you think would be the role of those things?
Sure. So more data, more analytics, like all day long. And so I think, the interplay between light and CO2 is what I think an awful lot about these days, and none of that's automated today. And so, and taking into account cost, the humidity, temperature, there's way too many variables in a CEA facility for a human to wrap their head around all of them simultaneously. And so the state of the art is you'd have 10 or 20 years of experience, and like your 5 senses in your brain become the sensor and control unit for the greenhouse. I think we need to see more automated controls in place to help our growers be better at what they do. And then really great training programs for growers. So young growers, just like you said, and getting up to speed in 2 to 3 years, what might have taken 5 to 10 years in the past. And so I think automated tools to help with that, and then really great training programs to go along with it.
Wonderful. Sardar, what do you think is the role of climate controls, integration, and training in the future?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Matt said. I think, we first need good growers making good decisions, but also automation and tools for growers to make the correct decisions. So I think there's a lot of room for better software solutions to help making decisions. And I think most of the opportunity is around data analytics, both collecting data, collecting good, better quality data, and compiling it, presenting it in a digestible manner, or being able to get actionable insights out of that data, and maybe equipment tool. But I think, equipment innovation kind of already happens towards the direction of, how can we build this equipment better so that it uses less electricity, it uses less energy, things like that. I think that's something that's already in motion. But there's certainly a lot of opportunities on the side of data analytics and just grower insights in general.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much, Sardar. Thanks everybody who joined us up to now. Any final comments? Anything else you guys wanna comment here? Anything big that we didn't cover, or any thoughts related to sustainability in the CEA industry?
I just want to close with a sense of optimism here. I have a tremendous sense of optimism about sustainability in CEA, and it doesn't always sound like it in the way we talk about it, because there's a lot of challenges. But I think the whole point is to solve for those, and I think I see everybody working on the solutions. I don't know what they're going to look like. I agree we should figure out how to share data and share benchmarks. We're starting to do that in the food safety space within CEA through the CEA Food Safety Coalition. But I think the future is really bright in this space, and I genuinely believe that. I think it's the reason why most of us are doing it, is we think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Wonderful. So, are there any final comments?
I think anyone who's looking to contribute to sustainability solutions in our space, I think the best place to start is to talk to growers, and not just high level, not just the CEOs or the VPs of the companies like like me and Matt, but talk to small scale growers, talk to junior growers to understand what are the pain points in their day to day, because the more people who are decision makers in this space you know, the better equipped they are with tools and with solutions. I think we're just going to get to a better place continually. So the future is bright. I agree, and I think we all just need to help each other move in the right direction.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you. Thanks everybody for joining. And I think we have a topic for a new CA table now. We're gonna do sustainability with growers, which I can't agree more, right? We can talk about sustainability, labor. It's a lot of things that we go there to unpack. Maybe we can do a series just on that. But I really appreciate both of you. Matt, have a safe trip, wherever you're going. Have a safe flight. Thanks both of you for joining, and I look forward to interact with you guys again in a new opportunity, hopefully soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks,
everyone.
Eric.
Bye-bye.